Good morning. How is everybody today? This is the Sensational Six, and I'm Reverend Cheryl Guess, and I'm here with my fellow reverends, ready to give you a great show and a great time and show you what we know and what we don't, or who we are. We want to just be present today. So I'm going to start off with an opening prayer and just get comfortable in your seat, and let's just say, take a deep breath, and then let's just take another one and get into that space of just deep within you. We're in that knowing space, that space where there are no questions, just the answers. And so I know that this space, this thing within me is spirit in action, that I am a divine creation of this beautiful creative spirit, and that I am eternally connected to my fellow ministers, to my fellow human beings, to the whole world, that I am part of the entire fabric that just permeates the entire universe. And that energy is always present, always ready for me. And today I am immersed in the love and in the peace and in the joy and the serenity that is my birthright. And I know as we go forward today that all things will unfold in perfect divine right order. The perfect answer will appear, that everything is open and receptive within us. Our hearts are full of joy and anticipation to go on and create this beautiful space. And I am so full of gratitude and love for my fellow ministers, for all the things that we experience together and all the things that we are now unfolding and opening up to the world. And I just live in gratitude for the joy and the serenity that is within me. And so I now release my word as law to the law, knowing that it is already done. It's already complete and whole. And so it is. So today we're going to start off with a really interesting question, because I think all of us have our own personal journey, but it's going to be how you found science of mind and the church. And the most important thing is, what kept you coming back? What was it about the church that just resonated within you? And so now I'm going to I guess I'm going to go first today. So my experience was, there was a lady that used to sing at the church. Her name was Rocky, and I don't know if any of y'all remember her. She had really long blonde hair, and she rode a motorcycle and leathers to church. It was pretty cool. But one night, one of my friends had met her, and we were talking, and she said, "Oh, you got to try this place where I go. It's really a great church and stuff." So we said, "Oh, okay." I was looking for something, and I'd always been looking for something. So anyway, we went to the church on Sunday, and my friend was a very staunch Catholic. And so after the service, she was like, I thought she felt like she's going to burst into flames because it was so against what she had been taught, and she just, I can't go back there again. But for me, I never stopped going. There was something there that just resonated within me. And Joe Hooper, I will always be eternally grateful to him for what a fabulous teacher he is, and for how he opened up that teaching to me in a way that was so personal. And every time he was speaking, I thought he was talking to me, seriously, just me. And so I went ahead and kept going. But even Joe one time teased me in a class, and he said, I said, I used to cry at every service. And I couldn't help it. It was not like I was wow, wow, wow. It was just like tears were rolling down my face as all this stuff just unloaded from me. All the things and all the past and all that other crap just kept pouring out of me, and it was coming out of my eyes. So he said, "Oh, Cheryl, did you cry? I think you cried for the first 6 months every Sunday," which is probably true. I don't deny it. But it was just, I found my home. And I found the place I should be. And I'll get a little teary because it completely, absolutely changed my life. It took a while. I mean, it wasn't like I walked in the door and everything was changed. I had to do the work. I had to walk the walk. I had to go through the classes. Not had to, but I needed to. I wanted to. I desired it. And so once I got into this teaching, it just, everything in my life started changing. So now I tell everyone that I'm unreasonably happy because I have no reason to be this happy, but I am. So, I mean, it's not something external to me. It's just something within me that just stays in this place of joy. And I wouldn't give it up for anything. So, I'm going to pass this over to Lori.
Well, oh, I was thinking about this, and I had just moved to California, and I was walking around a little town of Sierra Madre, which a lot of people don't even know is there. And I kept walking by this little space, and they had a calendar in the window, and it said SOM 100, SOM 200. What is that? But all the rest of the things they had on the calendar sounded really intriguing. So I kind of put it in my mind to go back and check it out at some point, but no one was there every time I walked by. And then I was in a yoga class and I was behind a woman who was, I think she was about 80. And oh my God, she was the bendiest person in the class. And I was like, oh, I just really, I just can't believe. And she said, oh, I've been doing it for, 60 years. That's why. And she started, we struck up a little bit of a friendship and she told me about this center, this church. And she said, you should check it out and you should come alone and just be there and see if it's right for you. And so I took her advice and I went the next Sunday and was immediately just welcomed, and the energy was wonderful. And the second the service started, just like Cheryl, tears. And I thought, these are my people. These are my people. I thought I was the only one on the planet who thought this way. And I never really shared it with anybody. Coming from the East Coast, there wasn't any new thought. And I just kind of kept my beliefs to myself. And I walked into the space and everybody thought exactly what I did. And it was a coming home. And again, like Cheryl, I never left. I took every single class they offered. I volunteered almost like on a full-time basis. I learned every area of the church and I just loved it. And come to find out that that little space I kept walking by with the calendar, it was the same. It was the same center. They just had a Sunday space and a weekday space. So that worked out really well for me. And eternally grateful to Reverend Michael and Reverend Mary Beth Spear, who were my first teachers, and particularly Reverend Michael. My life was kind of a mess, but boy, he just saw past that. And he saw something in me, some spark, which he took it upon himself to nurture and to keep reminding me was there, which sometimes I think that's just so important, to have somebody in your life who sees past all the stuff to who you really are, and then taps you on the shoulder and reminds you of that, so much so that you begin to see it for yourself. And that is what Reverend Michael did for me. So I'm incredibly grateful. And then, of course, I went on to Dr. James's church and then landed here at Palm Desert. So I've been in 3 amazing centers over the years, and each one has served me in a different way. Each one has given me something, a piece of my path. So very grateful. And I'm going to pass this on to Reverend Dale.
Thank you, Reverend Lori. Oh, it's so emotional when we think of this stuff. I know, when I was thinking about the topic, I just was kind of recounting my path here. And then now sitting here talking about it, the emotion is starting to come up, because that point where you come into something that you've been feeling and knowing is missing from your life, and then boom, there it is. It's just such a remarkable experience. Well, my journey to Science of Mind began in 2001, and I had just moved to the desert 6 months prior, and I was working at the Desert Sun, and I was getting trained to do a new position there because I'd gotten promoted. And the girl that was training me started talking about the center, and I don't know even why she talked to me about it. It's not like I had expressed a desire to find a place to connect with people. She just like started talking about it, and it was so cute. She goes, "There's this little cute man, and he's so wonderful," and she was referring to Dr. Tom Costa. And so I decided to take a chance. It was strange for me because I was raised Jewish, and I always thought, religion and spirituality belongs in a temple. So it was really big for me personally to step out of that that way of thinking about spirituality and go to a, because it was called a church then, and to actually go to a church. And so I went to it, and it was a very strange experience for me, because I had never been in that type of an environment where people were so kind and loving, and they welcomed you. And I was just, it was such a weird kind of, I don't know, it was just a weird phenomena for me, because I never had that kind of outreach in a spiritual community before. And so we're sitting there, I was sitting there waiting for the service to begin, and Dr. Tom uh, had everybody stand up, and then he said his usual opening line, which is, "You are a very valuable, worthwhile person." And I just started crying. I could not stop crying, because I realized I needed to hear that from somebody. I really needed to hear it my whole life. And it was so emotional. And I realized, like Cheryl had said, or Reverend Cheryl said, that I found my spiritual home, and everything resonated for me. Everything that the philosophy taught was what was in my heart as far as my spiritual beliefs. So it was such a great match. And it was so wonderful seeing it in an organized place, that people were talking about spiritual principle. They were talking about living from love and kindness and compassion. And that just really sat well for me. And I kept coming back, because when I came to services, I felt like everything was okay. I felt whole again. I felt like me, and I felt like it was every service was like empowering for me. I felt more and more in power of who I am, and allowing my authentic to be expressed. So I never stopped coming back to the services, obviously, and I began taking classes in 2004. And what's so cool about our philosophy, and something that I think a lot of us have experienced here, is you never stop growing. You keep coming to services, you take classes, and there's more and more inner growth and deepening of your spirituality that is just a continual. And that's why I'm so in love with our center and our philosophy. And so now I'm going to pass it to Reverend Gail.
Thank you, Reverend Dale. Good morning, everyone. I like to say that Science of Mind, New Thought Teachings found me. I did not find them. And I grew up in the Midwest and really experimented as a seeker with just about every single faith tradition that existed at the time. And I always felt like there was something big, something really big that was missing. And I always left every service with more questions than I had answers. Well, I had the good fortune of traveling in the job that I was in for several decades. And as I traveled, I would find Science of Mind churches. They would actually find me. So in Illinois, in Florida, in Texas, Colorado, California. And then I spent a lot of time in Colorado when my mother was ill for many years, and I cared for her. And there was a very large Science of Mind church there that was under the direction of Dr. Roger Teal at the time. And so when I was there, I was able to attend Wednesday night services, Sunday services. I was able to attend workshops. And from the moment that I stepped into, in particular, the Mile High Church, I just felt like I was at home. My heart was just singing. And as I moved, then my husband and I continued to explore areas that we wanted to potentially retire to. One of the criteria was we wanted to find a Science of Mind church that we both loved. And we loved the state of California, and we found ourselves continuing to come back here. And as we did, we ended up in Palm Desert, and we ended up at the Palm Desert Science of Mind Center. And at the time, Joe Hooper was still the lead minister. And we walked in on a Sunday morning and heard Dr. Joe, and both of us looked at each other and said, "This is it." And we had gone to so many services, so many different places. And we just loved the Coachella Valley. We loved the community. And the center was just like icing on cake or icing on brownies. It was just exactly what we needed to make our decision. And I've continued to come back because this center and the teachings within have nurtured my soul. I continue to grow. I continue to be nudged forward, which is what I love. And the energy and the people in our center we found just really exuded love. And that was so important to us. So again, I think that Science of Mind and our center actually found me, and I am so very grateful. Thanks for listening. Now let's turn it over to Reverend William with his story.
Oh, thank you, Reverend Gail. That is so wonderful. Well, first off, I wasn't even looking for this place. My wife had just happened to get a job at the center, and I believe she actually went 1 week without me. But then the following week, she said, "Oh, you've got to see this." And I've attended a church, Desert Chapel, over in Palm Springs, because that's where she used to go when we were dating and first got together. And Reverend Frank over there, he was very nice. His sermons were, I could definitely connect to. So anyway, coming over here, right off the bat, hearing Dr. Joe talk, the way he talked about it, resonated with me. I like math, and I'm very mechanical. I like the way things operate. I like to take things apart, not necessarily put them back together again. But I love the mechanics. And when he talked about the thing itself and how it works, it was mechanical, and it resonated with me. I could understand it. It wasn't this woo-woo, off in the distance, you're hoping you're praying to something, but you don't quite know type of thing. And that just I never got that growing up. And so I was never spiritual whatsoever. I know good from bad and taught that to my kids and stuff like that. But as far as being spiritual, that was not on my plate until I came here. And pretty much ever since I started coming here, I have not quit. It has been a wonderful journey. And again, the idea of knowing that it's mechanical, that there's a process, I had to know how to do this. I had to know how it worked. And so that's why I started taking the classes and taking Science of Mind. When somebody refers to SOM, it's abbreviated for Science of Mind, which are the foundation classes that we have. So I was taking SOM 1, then you take SOM 2 and 3, and then next year it's the 200s, then the 300s. But every single class that I took allowed me to understand this connection, this energy, this source that I am part of and that I direct. And it teaches me how to be more methodical, to direct my thoughts, which in turn direct my life. And so that's how I came from not even being spiritual to now to this day to be called and referred to as Reverend William. So it's been a wonderful journey. And if anybody is interested in knowing how to improve your life, this place is definitely the place to come, because it's non-denominational. It's not a process of a particular religion. Whatever your basis is, whatever your foundation is, we take it to the next level. I mean, Reverend Dale can talk to you about this, because again, she talked about how she was in the Jewish faith, but she hasn't lost that. She loves that, but she allows this philosophy to merge with her foundations and allows her to grow. And that's what this philosophy can do for you, and it's done for me. I just absolutely love it. Every single day, I just see the beauty around this planet, and I just see my connection with it. And 20 years ago, I would have said, "You're freaking nuts." But now I see the behind the veil. Reverend Brad, thank you all for listening so much, but here's Reverend Brad.
Awesome, Reverend William. Actually, I should say all my fellow Reverend Awesomesters. Just so rich. Hey, I want to remind everybody that your new ministers are being interviewed a couple times a week. This week is Dr. Laura. She interviewed me yesterday. Or a couple days ago. She's going to interview Reverend Lori tomorrow. So tune in at 10 a.m. to get to know us better. And maybe from that, you'll see where one of us personally, or what our ministries are within this community, can serve you personally. So I think it was how I found it. I shared some a couple of days ago with Dr. Laura, where my aunt found the church, and she literally lived down the street. And it was where Reverend Lori was sharing, and I kind of zoned out for part of it because something hit Lori, and it was so awesome. I got chills, because it wasn't just my aunt introduced me to it. I'm shaking because it was so like how the circle goes like this of what's supposed to, of how life unfolds. I was either living with my parents after an accident, or I was living in a big house with 3 other guys, and we weren't friends or socialized much. We were just renting a space together. And my aunt said, go volunteer at this film festival. Never done outside volunteering, though I did Red Cross and Big Brothers Big Sisters years later, but never did any kind of volunteering. I had no friends. There was no one I wasn't dating. There was nobody I could go bicycling with or having a beer with in my life. She said, go to this film festival. And the last day of the film festival, I met a woman who owned a temp agency. She did 2 things. She got me a job as the night watchman at a retirement community, where I ended up meeting a woman who was my best friend for the next 15 years and even stood up with me at the wedding. And she also got me a job at a large commercial real estate company. So the point is, so here I have now one friend that we rented a house together. And while we were renting a house together, I got this job at this commercial real estate company. And I was, back before internet, there was a mail room, and I ran the mail room, bottom of the row. And I had a big bunch of stuff in the back of my car on Saturday night around 11 o'clock, 11:30. And so I rushed down to the post office to put it in the mail. And it was for a woman named Renee, who worked at I was supposed to do this 4 days ago. And some guy approached me at the post office. Now, I was really ambivalent and, naive. And it didn't even come across whether he's trying to pick me up or anything. He just started talking about business and said, I need to look at this business idea. And he introduced me to Amway. Now, this is 11:30 on a Saturday night. So a few days later, he came into my house, sat at the kitchen table, did a spiel. I got involved, read motivational books, sponsored my aunt, who had, again, like I said, she read some books, moved away from her ex-husband with her daughters, moved down to the desert, became a successful real estate agent, but introduced me to the church. So I never thought of that whole circle of, it was even her who got me in a position to delay mailing something. So I met this really cool guy who introduced me to this, blah, blah, blah. Man, that's just rich. But why I kept coming as I met one person that first Sunday, and I saw her again the next Sunday, and I never saw her again. I don't remember her name. But since I saw her the next time, I had a little deeper connection with that experience called church. And then Reverend Carol Price was the minister at the time, and I loved her and got involved very quickly and just been running ever since. So we're talking about ministry and how we got involved and found religious science. And so today's topic is being of service as a personal ministry. But first, we were taught, or I thought, you always start a sermon or talk with a joke. So here's a joke. Quarantine. Nah, you won't get it. It's an inside joke. So the topic today is being of service. And I'd like you to do one thing. I'd like you to grab your phone, and I'd like you to text the church's website to a friend. Because you're here because you think this is awesome, you're going to get something from it. Just text www.cslpalmdesert.org to a friend and say, I'm loving this show. Please join me. All right, so I'm going to do it while we're talking here. So I was looking up service in the Science of Mind textbook, and I was also looking up ministry in the Science of Mind textbook as I'm talking slowly and finishing send, and didn't get a lot of information on there. So I'm going to share what ministry is to me and what one of the definitions I came across. Ministry was personal work or service. Now, all of us here on the panel are very blessed to have, amazing leadership we're now joining. And Reverend Charles asked us, what areas of the community are you feeling called to serve or expand or grow or begin? So we all got to share areas that we feel our skills and our talents and our consciousness could contribute in a ministry. And so that's wonderful. We get to do that. And a lot of times we only associate the word ministry with a church, a temple, a spiritual community, because we've so much associated the word ministry with that. But I'm going to help us expand that. And I loved one of the definitions I had to personal work or service. In that definition that says personal work or service as a ministry, there's nothing that talks about a church, a community, anything along those lines. So I'm asking each of us individually, if we were going to have a ministry, what would it be? Or what is it already? So in being of service, we know, we've learned what service is. If you're tuning in here, you could be new. That would be awesome, and welcome to this teaching in this community. But you might not be. So you've learned what service is, where when you give, you receive. You've probably heard that in other teachings, but particularly in this, that you give, you receive. Why is that, and what happens? We can label it a wonderful, moral, kind thing to do, and it sure makes us look good, right? But when we give, we have to be more than us. When we have to physically, in this physicality of life, give outside of ourselves, but we can even give in our prayers, just sitting silently. When we're giving outside of us, we're doing the one thing, the main thing that happens in life, and that's God expressing itself. God, the energy in the life of the one life that is God is growing that tree. But God is not building that house or feeding that child or comforting someone who's ill. Spirit, God must do its work through us. By means of me, the infinite expresses. By means of me, God does his perfect and glorious work. It's not a separate energy because it's already within me. But through me, that infiniteness and amazingness that is the allness of God can be in life through me and through you. That's how it works. So everything we do is an expression of the infinite. So how can wouldn't we want to more consciously direct that action, direct that essence within us, and be clear of how we're doing that? Do we want to express pain, or do we want to express loving kindness? What happens in that is in our givingness of giving out. Let's not just do it because it's nice to do. I'm going to bring up one of our awesome practitioners in our community, Carol. Christine. Knew it started with a C. Christine. I don't think this is private. So she does meditation in her community she lives in throughout the week. Don't know if those people go to church. I don't think a lot of them do. But through that service of taking what's within her and sharing it, more lives are expanded. So everything we do, whether we're smiling at the grocery clerk across the counter that we only see every 7 to 10 days now, or any other essence, we're still expressing that infinite, and someone else is gaining the benefit of that. But what if we really took it personally and took it selfishly to realize how much benefit it is to us? So I'm giving, and it's really wonderful, and it's great, and I get to give like this. But if I really look at it, that I am representing the infiniteness and amazingness that is God and Spirit being its amazingness out in the world. When we think of it that way more than just Brad shows up. Because when it's Brad going to, drive a vet to a doctor's appointment that I did a few years ago, or I have in this day and age, I have Ziploc bags that I'll take out with me, and it has a couple of food bars, a couple of gloves, and sorry, I forgot to turn my mom doorbell off, and I don't need to go take care of her. My dad's inside taking care of her. A bottle of water and a couple other goodies and a $5 bill in just a Ziploc bag. So if I see someone who's homeless or looks like they could use some help, I have a bill in my car and I can just hand it to them. I'm going to pause there because that's an easy thing for all of us to do. But it reminds me of all that's within me, the amazingness that's within me, the God that's within me, the abundance that's within me, the unlimited love that's within me, that if I have enough to give and I'm still full and all that God is presently, and I still have enough to give, can we feel how expansive that makes us? That's why in church you hear repeatedly, volunteer, give, volunteer, give. The number of times I've volunteered in spiritual communities where something I almost wasn't thinking of and had forgotten about expands somewhere in my life. I remember one time we were in a project and we were doing a huge property renovation at a church I was at in Arizona and had hundreds of hours to manage to keep track of. And 3 times in 1 week, I got calls from properties I had in another state that I'd never visited that I needed rented, and we got a renter. And I hadn't even been paying attention to it for about a month. My property manager's in charge of that, right? But it's that expansiveness that happens. So even if you think you want to do it selfishly, like I need more time, I want more money, I want more love, when you give any of that, you are telling yourself there is so much in life, I can give it and I still have all that I have. That can be how we can be of service to ourselves personally, to the world around us and the planet and life, by being of personal service. As practitioners, we were taught in our practitioner training that it doesn't matter where someone is, we can pray and know a healing takes place. So, if we think we're going to give $5 to some person, I remember the first time I did that a few months back, I just saw a gentleman. I said, could you use some help? He goes, that'd be great. And so I just grabbed whatever was in my car, an extra mask, some gloves. I didn't have any water, but I had $5. Maybe it's $20, $20, and passed that off. And how that looks like I'm helping just that one person here, but it's really expanded to everywhere, because God isn't just one place, God is every place. So my 47 minutes are up. So I'm going to see what the rest of my panel wants to share.
So before we jump into the rest of the panel, and Brad, thank you for such an expansive, truly expansive explanation of our topic today. I just wanted to remind everybody that is listening today that we are here for you. So we really want to know what questions you have. Please weigh in, give us your comments. We'll be watching for them, and as soon as we can, we'll jump in with answers. So please let us know what you're thinking. Let us know what we can talk about to answer any questions that you have, particularly on this subject, because again, we are here for you. So with that, I'm just going to invite my fellow Revs to just weigh in.
I'd like to weigh in. When Brad was speaking about when we did our proposals for our letters of call, one of the things that we were supposed to put through they had certain duties that we were going to do as a minister, which are given. But then what were we going to add to it? What were we going to contribute to make this a better center and make it all work for everyone? And so my personal thing is, and this is so crazy, but my personal thing is that I love to be of service. And I have been of service long before I was a minister, long before I was a practitioner. I just love that feeling of giving back. And the interesting thing was it was never in a sense that of recognition or anything like that. I don't really care for that, but it was this thing about just letting the community know and see who we are and what we are. And if I'm going to, say that I believe what I'm doing, if I'm going to say that this is my spiritual being and this is who I am, then I have to show up. And that's the most important thing to me, is showing up. And when there's a need, or somebody, like I work with pastoral care, and I bake for the pet ministry. I've been doing that for 4 years. I think I've only missed 3 out of 4 years. But it's just something that I love to do, because it's just giving back to my community and enhancing my community, and making it a presence. Because to me, this is such a personal journey that it's not like you can stand on the street corner and say, "Hey, I found God." It's something that is within you. And so for me to be a presence in the community just shows that what I believe is showing up in my life. That's all. Anybody else?
I'll go next. I want to come at this from, I was thinking about it, and like Cheryl said, um, our service is a given when you're at this level, right? You're going to be doing pastoral care and classes, and all that is a given. And obviously you have a desire and a calling to do that. But I was thinking, how have I been served over these years of being in this teaching? Who was it, and what qualities that sparked in me? And I mentioned Reverend Michael earlier. So that was about, being of service for him was seeing who I was. And to me, that is so important. One of the ways I'm in service to everybody I come in contact is to recognize who they are, to see who they are at their core. So that to me is probably the most important thing. And then also to keep expanding myself. Like, I owe that to my community. I owe that to everyone around me, to keep pushing myself out there and expanding and having a greater and greater experience of life, because those people who have sparked me have also been the ones who I look at and I say, oh my God, I'll have what they're having. I want that. How'd you get there? How did that happen? Why are you unreasonably happy, as Reverend Cheryl likes to say? I want to know. Tell me, what did you do? So to be in that energy, I want to be that person that people look at and say, I'll have what she's having. And then to pay attention to know how I got there. Like, what were the steps that I can pass on? What are the things that I tapped into that I know you can do too, that you can tap into, because it's inside of you. There's that divine spark. And so the greatest service I can give is to help somebody recognize that within themselves, and then help them to ignite it and go to that next level. So yes, there's pastoral care and there's all these great things we can do out in the world, but really it's how we are within ourselves and how we interact with others. That's, to me, the greatest service that we can give to one another. And I love surrounding myself with people who are that for me and who allow me to be that for them. That is what makes my heart overflow with joy.
That is wonderful. I guess I would like to go next, unless Reverend Dale would like to. But I'll just expand on what Reverend Laurie just said. Again, when I found this philosophy, I was not looking for it whatsoever. I lived my life. I was busy raising my kids. I was busy going through a divorce, just living a good life, spending all the time that I could with my children as they grew up. But when I found this, it really changed my life and allowed me to see the connection that I have, not only with my own children, of my immediate family, but the connection I have with everyone around me. And our topic today is service as a personal ministry. And one of the things I loved when I first started coming to the center is Dr. Joe and Dr. Laura said something in passing, and they've said it a couple times, that we are all ministers. Whether you have the REV in front of your name or not, every single person is a minister. Anytime there's you're talking to someone, consoling them, to uplift them. You are a personal minister at that point in time. The only difference is that the difference between a first grader and a college student is just the amount of knowledge that one has acquired. And that's what all these classes have done for us. And that's the reason why all of my colleagues here now are technically officially reverends. It just because we have a knowledge base upon which to draw from to help people around us. I love just being out in the everyday world and just coming across somebody while I'm at the grocery store or while I'm at the auto zone, and just having a conversation out of nowhere. Seriously, out of nowhere, you get this connection and start having a conversation with a person, and you give them insight or open their minds to view their situation from a different point of view, which then creates an aha moment within their life. You talk about giving and receiving. When you give of yourself and unconditionally and not looking for some sort of reward back, that's the greatest gift for being a personal minister. Because when I walk away from that situation, and I'm sure that everyone here and every one of you who are listening can attest to this, when you walk away from that type of interaction with somebody, you walk away like you're on cloud nine. You are on top of the world. You just feel so good about yourself and the situation. And it's just a feeling that's intoxicating. And that's one of the reasons why, again, I got into this philosophy and started learning step by step by step. It's to be that personal minister. It's not to be up in front of a congregation, which I would love to be where Dr. Joe is, talking on a Sunday and stuff like that. But that's what, for me, it's not about that. It's about being able at an instant, at a moment's notice, to be able to recognize my connection with my source or the source, because it's not my source, it's the source, and see the connection of that person across from me and be able to resonate with them and connect with them on that level where they walk away in a better mode, in a better mood. And which in turn, like Reverend Brad was talking about, it's that circle. You have no idea what that person is now going to do or who they're going to touch, because they were touched by your conversation or my conversation. And that is what I love about personal ministry. And I open it up to expand upon what I've just said too. So thanks for listening.
Thank you, William. I was going to go in that direction too with everybody's a minister. I was very fortunate to grow up in a family that stressed the importance of serving humanity. And so my parents said, anything you can do to make this world a better place, do it. It's like your obligation as a human being. And so coming into being actually a spiritual leader, for me, sometimes I want to get all complicated about it. I have to do this and I do that. But I realize at the end of the day, it's about being the love, as Dr. James teaches, love only. And so for me, I go out into the community, I go and do my, my marketing or interact with people. And my ministry is just love everything. Be the love, be the kindness, be the compassion. To me, that is ministry. To me, is just being all of that and just allowing yourself to be pulled wherever you are to be pulled, and just to be in your divine nature, because that's where ministry is born from. So that's my 2 cents for today.
So we do have a question from one of our listeners, and it's, do you recall your first experience? And I know we all want to answer your question, but if you could expand on it a little bit while I'm connecting to our listeners on our subject matter, that would be great. And then we'll jump right in once we better understand your question. So for me, I had to really contemplate this subject because there were a couple of words, both service and personal ministry, that I had to answer some questions for myself on. And because what I discovered is that my personal ministry has little to do with any recent graduation. It's rather that which pulls me. It's that amazing divine urge or nudge, whatever you want to call it, that seems to have a life of its own. And it tends to pull me forward into whatever is next. And it always feels right. So I really echo what my cohorts have said. This personal ministry is something that really comes from within, and it's how you live your life. And how does that come forth? What does it look like? So for me, being of service as a personal ministry starts at home. So it starts at home, it expands into my community, locally where I'm living, into my center, and also globally. But first and foremost, for me, it starts at home. And what does that mean? Well, for me, it means I've got to treat my own consciousness to remember that my family, my friends are all divine energy. Each one is on a unique path, and each one is unalterably whole at their core. And coming from this perspective, I'm able to meet my family and friends exactly where they are and support them on their journey and not confuse their journey with mine. And when you have 6 daughters and 5 granddaughters, I really got to treat my own consciousness pretty often. And yes, sometimes I forget and I have to pull myself back to it. And that's part of a personal ministry too. And being of service as my personal ministry also means for me getting involved in my community wherever I'm living, giving back and investing wherever I am. So for me, currently, being of service is expressing itself through my work as an interfaith chaplain at Eisenhower Medical. And now, during the COVID experience, I'm experiencing that interfaith telechaplaincy through the Association for Board Certified Chaplains. And being of services also means being a pathway of light, kind of lighting the way through loss, through grief, lighting the way through illness, diagnosis, finding new ways to illumine metaphysical teachings and the power of prayer. And that's how I see personal ministry expanding into our center and into the work that I do there. And I think lastly, but not least, globally, what's a personal ministry look like globally with so much going on? And for me, it means knowing that there's more going on than what I can see. It means remembering, truly remembering that all the circumstances and situations that I experience, that I observe, can be used for awakening to a greater spiritual truth. And yes, we're in a time with difficulties that are appearing in so many different places. And for me, spiritual awareness doesn't deny that this is true, but it does call me to seek a higher meaning in all of these things that I experience and to embrace that dance of life as well. So I think what I'm saying today is whether it's at home, whether it's in my community, at the center, or globally, my personal ministry begins within and it expresses outward. And it's kind of all about my ability to see that God is all there is and that viewing current world conditions is simply prayer requests that our collective experience is issuing. Thanks for listening.
Silence.
Let's not all jump in at once here.
That was funny. That was a moment. We had to absorb what Gail said because that was just beautiful. That said it all, honestly. What she just said, it was like so comprehensive. Thank you, Gail. Sorry, I just had to break the silence.
Oh, sorry. I think everybody's been so brilliant today. So, gosh, what a great session. Thank you.
Gail, Reverend Gail, do we have any questions yet or any comments from our people?
I've been watching. We don't have any questions or comments, so we would love to have them. And Jeff is confirming that nothing else has come in, that he's waiting to send my way. So we are getting close to the end of our time. If there aren't any questions, maybe we open it up for some closing comments before William closes us out.
I'll go. If everybody's going to wait. So, I just thank you so much. Everyone here has just given me a new perspective on different aspects of who you are. And even though we've been together for a long time, 2 years of class, and we've had tears, we've had it all, but thank you today for just opening up and showing me who a little bit more of you. And I appreciate it so much. And I love you all. You know that.
I'd like to add on to this a little bit more. Through the course of our conversations here with the Sensational Six, you've noticed that every single one of us has had a different perspective on ministry. And I want to emphasize that ministry isn't a box that you're put into. As many people as there are on this planet, there's that many different types of ministry. Allow your ministry to be your own. You don't have to change who you are to be spiritual. How I express my spirituality is definitely a lot different than almost everybody here. I can attest to that, and I think everybody would say an amen to me on that one. But that's just to show you that ministry is something personal. It's your personal expression of the divine spirit, which we all know that every single one of us are. So rejoice in that, be comfortable in that, and know that when you come from your heart or that place of love, know that that is the divine inspiration that is within you, and it's in each and every one of us, and allow that to guide you and allow your own personal ministry to expand out into this world. And we can make this place a better place, one heart at a time. Anything else, my fellow reverends?
I love that. William, you're so cool. Reverend William, I just have to say this because you brought up that you have your own way. There's we have these, if you don't know, we've got these ads that run, not ads, but promotional things that run on Instagram. And there was one this week, Reverend William, where it says my view of meditation is riding on my Harley in the countryside. And I sat and I just stared at it and felt the energy of that, because that's brilliant. And I think we should encourage people to find their meditation in non-traditionally as well as traditionally, because both have value. But that always just warms my heart and just opens my soul. I guess my final parting comment is there's this concept out there called servant leader. And kind of like what Cheryl was saying, you live to serve, Cheryl. I get that. That's who we are. We love to serve. And I see myself, and I can't speak for everybody, I see myself as a servant leader, because I do lead as my service. And I think many of us do here as well. So, and I think I just want to say, as our practitioners that are going to be coming in, our interns right now, I happen to know all of them personally, because I've had them in classes for quite a while. And when they came into the class, they already have this natural leadership and ability to connect with people at a deep soul level. So many people are just born with that in their nature to serve and love and listen. And so I guess if you're feeling like that's really who you are, take the practitioner journey, jump on it, because it's a beautiful way to serve. And it's just lovely. I think we all can attest to the fact that when we decided to take a step on this journey, our lives transformed tremendously, and they continue to do so.
William, I think we're ready for you to close us out.
Thank you, Reverend Gail. I'm laughing because, I was thinking the same thing. I just want to thank everyone here. I want to definitely thank Jeff Harris and all of his team for everything they've been doing ever since we've been shut down. He makes this process smooth sailing. It's just unbelievable the amount of work that he does behind the scenes that no one ever sees. And I just know that every single one of us is greatly appreciative to his efforts and his energy that he puts forth. And so I just am just full of gratitude right now. I just really, truly am very happy for all this. I know that this was a little bit slower of a topic, but that's okay. It probably allows us a little bit of contemplation of knowing one's place. And knowing one's place means that that's your starting point. Wherever you are, that's your starting gate. It's up to you to determine where you want to go and how you want to proceed. And that's what this is all about. And this is how you can be your own personal ministry. Now we have a few things that are going up. As always, we have things going on throughout the week. The major time is 10 a.m. So on Wednesday, but in the evening, especially tonight, we have to thank Reverend Gail and her team for starting up and continuing the Power of Eight. And I believe that is a get together which on how to set your intentions, how to focus your mind. Am I correct? Can I get a nod from you, Gail?
It's manifesting your intentions.
Oh, there you go, manifesting.
Powerfully manifesting your intentions.
And you know what? I've been answering the phones, and I can tell you I've been getting a lot of great feedback from that and a lot of great comments. Everyone is truly loving that evening class. And then on Thursdays, we have the irreverent Dr. Laura, and she is going to be interviewing Reverend Lori. And that's going to be absolutely fast to find out the ins and outs of that lady right there, because she has definitely had a journey, and she's shared a little bit with us. But please join us at 10 a.m. and find out her personal journey on how and where she came and where she's at this time. Then, then later on is, tomorrow night is Reverend Cheryl and myself in the evening. We have the Socialate, which is basically just a social hour to get together, again, to have that connectivity with your fellow community and just to be able to talk with people that you may not have been able to physically get in contact with, but now's your time to become social and to have some fun. Make sure you bring your hors d'oeuvres and your favorite drink of choice. Then on Friday, we have Dr. Laura having her conversations. It's just her talking the way that she can only do. You never know what's going to come out of that woman's mouth. So don't be ready to be buckled up, Buttercup, because you don't know what type of ride she's going to give you. Then on Saturday, we have Saturday meditations. That's always a great way to start the week or to end the week, depending upon how you set up your weekly calendar. Sunday service is always on Sunday. You gotta love that. But our special guest is our very own AV1, our audio guy, who has his own band. That is Barry Bond. This man is truly amazing and is so very humble. You would never know this guy is this type of musician. Please, I implore you to join us for Sunday service for a great talk, but that musical program is unsurpassed. Period. End of story. That's all I'm going to say about that. Then on Monday, we have, don't know who's going to be interviewing me, but I've got myself. I'm going to be interviewed, so you're going to find the ins and outs of what I'm doing. And believe me, just like Dr. Lori, you never know what's going to come out of my mouth. So you might want to basically get some popcorn and some crackers for that. Then on Tuesday at 10 a.m. to continue with Javon Seeley, what he's talking about and is a conversation that is not an easy one, but it's one that needs to be heard. It opens up eyes. Whether you agree or disagree, it doesn't matter. He's open for conversation, and that is what that is all about, is opening up conversation about interactions with all people, regardless of faith, creed, color, whatever it is. It opens up your heart. It opens up your eyes. It opens up your mind. And so with that, I just want to say thank you so very much for joining us. And don't forget, we would love your donations. Down below, up above, left, right. I don't know where the heck that button is, but smash it. Smash that button and donate. Because what you give, you receive. And that's what I absolutely love. Now it's time for our nice closing prayer. I know I've got a lot of energy built up around me and stuff like that, but that's who I am. And so let's pray. Let's pray with that energy. Let's come from that knowingness. And this is what I know right here and right now, that nothing is happening here except spirit unfolding and producing and acting upon itself. That action is love. That action is peace. That action is prosperity. That action is joy. And so now in this knowingness, I claim the truth for myself right here and right now. That being that personal minister is a joy unlike any other joy. I know that every single person here listening is a minister to someone else. Every interaction is always a point of ministry. When that aha moment comes, when that God self within you comes up in a state of compassion, a state of service towards your fellow human being, to your fellow neighbor, that is spirit acting upon itself to expand itself, to raise its consciousness through you by actions of us, by actions of me, that I recognize the divinity of all life. I recognize my connection to that. I am so very grateful for this knowledge, for this opportunity, for this conversation. I am filled with joy, with passion. I am filled with such gratitude that I just cannot contain myself. There is energy in me. There is power in me. There is a voice within me that comes out and is spoken. It is the word of spirit. It is the word of God. It is the I am that I am. And for that, I am so very grateful that I release my word as law right here and right now, knowing it is done completely without a doubt, because there is only one thing happening here, and that is the unfoldment of spirit upon itself, that I release that word as law. And together we say, and so it is. Amen. Thank you all so very much for joining us. It was wonderful.